Hey YouTube, this is Ben Gessel. I have to make this video. I just have to. For anybody who's doubting where I stand on historical figures, and also regarding the civil rights era and racism and all that other stuff, I have to make this video. I apologize if I've mentioned this before in other videos, but if it's important that people really understand not only where I stand, but um, something that's so blatantly obvious that anybody with an IQ over 90 should understand this when they study history. So first off, where I stand. Walt Disney, George Washington, the founding fathers in general, and you name it, all the other people that seem to be lambasted historically. Winston Churchill, sure. Anybody that was alive during the prime of their life before the civil rights era, all those folks are just fine. Let me repeat. Walt Disney, George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, all the founding fathers, and a whole bunch of other people that have said controversial things about people who aren't white. Right? I'm just fine with them. They were alive during the prime of their lives before the civil rights era. Before the civil rights era. And before the civil rights era, people thought differently. People thought differently that were white about people that were not white or Jews or whoever. People thought differently about people that were not white or who were Jews. I don't know how many times I have to say this. How many times do I have to say this? How many times? People, the majority of people, Caucasians in the United States, in Europe, and other places, thought differently about people who are not white or Jews. Was it right? By our standards, no. But back then, it was a different time. If we want to talk about relativism, and everybody's being relativistic these days, how about apply some moral relativism to them? Now, of course, again, by our standards, they were racist. But we can't measure them by our standards. They weren't alive now. We weren't alive then. Societies change. People change. The civil rights era had to happen. The civil rights era was a good thing. It was a movement in the right direction. I don't deny that. Of course I don't. I don't know how many people cannot even understand this simple concept. How many people just don't understand this simple concept? How many people go on these marches and we have all these funny signs? They don't even understand the basics of history. Freaking brain dead. I don't want to waste my time with them. Riffraff. You talk to Martin Luther King Jr. You ask him. If you go back in time and talk to him, you ask him, how did a white person in 1930, 1940 view black people and Jews and Asians? Your average typical white person versus 2000. Move Martin Luther King Jr. forward. Put him in a spaceship or a time traveling device. Have him go back and forth, and then talk to him about it, and be like, "Yeah, well, it doesn't have to be Martin Luther King Jr. Anybody, man. You guys do it, but you don't have to take it. Don't have to invent time traveling device. Just freaking study history." Gosh, man. The absurdity, the idiocy of people these days. They're so self-important. Everybody's so self-important. It's waving around these stupid signs. It's not their look. None of us in our right mind are even questioning what how you should treat people. People. Doesn't matter what their race is, just people. Nobody's questioning that. Or if, nobody questions it openly, but people, see, that's the thing. People make a big deal about racism, but there's all kinds of things that people are doing that are wrong. Why not call out those things? What do you think we do every Sunday when we go to church? You think we just sing pretty songs and be nice to each other? Well, actually, yeah, be nice to each other. Why not that? Just that one little simple phrase, be nice to each other. That actually solves everything. This is why you don't have a lot of, we'll say, Mormons picketing. And if they do, there's a reason behind it. You don't see a lot of Christians in general, of certain types of Christians, by the way, I should add, acting like morons, picking fights with people. And if they do, I know what kind of Christian that is. It's not the kind of Christian I want anything to do with, really. Well, maybe. But it all depends on the person, I guess. But it's just so stupid, folks. It's so stupid. Why do people keep acting like idiots like this way? Now, you have liberals, you got people that still don't like Walt Disney for whatever reasons. They still aren't convinced that, well, yeah, fine. But at least have some freaking perspective about history and about life before the Civil Rights era versus life after the Civil Rights era. I keep getting stupid comments on YouTube. Absolutely asinine, stupid, idiots. It drives me nuts. It drives me nuts. It should drive anybody nuts. Because I keep hearing the same crap over and over again. If Walt Disney was alive in these days, in 2000, you better believe he would be a little different. You better believe he would be. We had all this. I grew up after the Civil Rights era. There was absolutely no culture I grew up with. None whatsoever. None. Zero. Zilch. Nada. Had anything to do with any kind of negative view toward anybody who wasn't white. That wasn't even remotely on my radar growing up. So I didn't grow up around that kind of environment. So I am not racist. It's easy not to be racist when you grow up in that environment. What do you think the environment was in 1950 or 1920? It was freaking racist by our time and day. It was. It was segregated. White people didn't want to have much to do with black people. Thought that black people were dirty or something. Like the brown skin or they're stinky or whatever. All that stuff. It wasn't just the South. It was like people in general were like that. Why should I have to tell you guys that? I mean, most of you guys are watching this. Probably a lot of you guys understand this already. But it's for the few that are seeing this for the first time. If you still don't understand this about history, please understand this one thing about history regarding at least the United States, regarding the mid-1900s. Times were different. Times were different before the Civil Rights era and after the Civil Rights era. The Civil Rights era was a big deal. It was a big deal. It did definitely influence the way people thought about people that weren't white. It had to happen. It was a good thing. Need I say any more? Are we done with the subject? I'm going to keep referring people to this very video. I keep mentioning this stupid crap about Disney. Oh my gosh. Of course Disney had mixed feelings about these feelings. I mean, of course he did, because there was a side to Disney that was more righteous. There was a side to him that maybe was more stick in the bud before the Civil Rights era, a little more racist. Sure. But that doesn't mean he was an evil person. It doesn't mean he was some demon and... Man, you guys need a serious wake-up check if you think that he's seriously an evil person. He's not. Just because he was chauvinist. Big whooping deal. Big freaking deal. Everyone was chauvinist back then. Everyone was chauvinist, or most everyone. Everyone was racist, more or less by our standards. Can we get over this crap? Leave me thoughts in the comments below. You better believe I'll respond to them. Catch you later.